Hello, it is December 16th, 2021. This is the Backdrop Weekly Developer Call. We get together every week to talk about priorities and tasks for Backdrop Core and beyond. We'll do some quick introductions. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, based in Oakland, California. And we'll go to Joseph and then Robert.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a backend developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've been working on performance stuff. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Joseph. Robert and then Greg.
I'm Robert Lang from Altadena, California, web folder on the internet, and been working on various things, including just finding a nasty bug in coder upgrade. Greg.
Sounds great. Greg and then Jen.
I am Greg. I'm joining from Greece. Generally interested in anything that has to do with Backdrop in any way that I can help. Excited about the upcoming release. So, yep. Yep, Nate, you were muted.
Jen and then Tim.
I'm Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California, and I just want to say I'm so excited about all of the activity that's been going on in the issue queue lately. I haven't read all of the issues or all of the emails, but I've seen them all come in, and I'm really excited to get caught back up on all of the fantastic work everyone is doing. So thank you everybody for all your time. That's it for me.
Tim and then Justin.
I'm Tim Erickson, or St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota, and yeah, just enjoying getting down to pushing some of my favorite issues forward in the last 2 weeks before code freeze.
Great. Justin, and then finally Olaf.
Justin Christopherson in Denver, Colorado, and I'm contribute to mostly the infrastructure when I can.
I'm Olaf Gorbienski from Hamburg in Germany, and yeah, I'm happy to be here.
All right, thanks everybody. Jen, can you give us the community update real quick?
Sure. So this week we have one new application to join Contrib. I'm actually not sure. It looks like it came in a week ago today, so I don't know if that was before or after the meeting or if you guys talked about it. But there is a new module called S3FS, which looks like it was previously a Drupal module and has now been ported to Backdrop. So I wanted to thank Kaiser JB for their work on porting that module. And then we have a handful of new community contributed projects this week. There's a new theme called Opera and a handful of new modules, including publication date, G-Lite, box, and volume pricing.
Super. All right. Thanks, Jen, for the community update there. And welcome to our new Contrib members. Let's see. This week, so we have a forum post in the forum.backdropcms.org website for ideas and discussion points to bring up each week. There wasn't anything posted this week, but we do have a couple of items that have been coming up in other avenues. I want to touch on issue 5401, the jQuery 1.13 update. Indigo Zella filed this issue separately, much appreciated. She has a question about how to deal with the distribution of jQuery UI versus what's in core versus what is distributed by the jQuery project. And there's a big, maybe not big, but a small problem in that jQuery has restructured their distribution that they deliver as a package a couple of times actually in the lifetime of jQuery UI, and it differs from what Drupal 7 originally had included in core, and then we've carried that forward. That now jQuery UI is always just delivered as one giant bundle of functionality, and Backdrop Core includes every individual component separately as needed. And so Indigo Zella's point here is that there's no easy way to get the files into the current structure. And the answer to that question, I believe, is that is correct. There is no easy way to take the current files and get them into the current structure. I think last time we did this, we took all of the files from the source code, renamed them all to match the current file patterns, and then we also compressed them using Uglify, I think. And so I think that that's the same thing that we'll need to go through for this release as well. For better or worse, jQuery UI doesn't update very often, and so we haven't run into this very frequently. But with jQuery UI seeing some new life, you know, maybe we should try to find a better way to do this in the future.
Nate, with CK Editor, we used to have a README file that was explaining the process. Maybe it's worth adding a README file that explains the process in the jQuery thing. Then,
yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, the CK Editor process is also it's not too bad. It's actually even gotten better recently. But yeah, I agree that would be good to document exactly how this whole process works.
Yeah, maybe we can do it as part of that issue that Indigo Zella raised, because it's a different issue. We'll just add the README there. I'll do that.
Yeah, well, someone will need to go through the process of doing the update this time around, and we should document exactly what they did to achieve it. Yeah. It might also be worth, if we haven't done this already, go back and look at the last time we updated it and find the issue for that and see if we can find a comment on how that was done previously.
I had a quick look. It doesn't mention how it was done.
Okay, pretty sure it was me. I apologize for past me. Okay, let's see. Greg opened up issue 5398 this week for PHP 8.1 support. We got PHP 8 support a couple of months ago that was complete in all ways. PHP 8.1 introduced a new set of deprecated functionality and things that had been okay previously are now causing issues. Greg has filed a pull request that ports some of the functionality from the corresponding 777 issue, but there's still a lot more work to be done there. Is there anything you want to add, Greg, to that?
Well, if people are testing things that are not production, like on their environments, and they can easily switch PHP versions, it might be a good idea if they switch to, like, for example, I use my local test environments all use PHP 7.4 by default, but I'm going to switch it, so at least some of them, to 8.1 so we can surface the issues and then maybe address it. So I switched that issue to be a meta issue, although it has a pull request. So if you come up with any issues, yeah, basically just soliciting help from others in reporting issues with PHP 8.1. And if you know how to contribute, then either use my pull request or file pull requests against my branch. Just help in any way that I can.
Great. Yeah, and kind of like what happened with PHP 8. Well, first of all, we have an advantage that now we're on GitHub Actions. I think we can jump to PHP 8.1 really pretty easily just by updating the YAML file. I haven't checked to make sure that they're compatible with PHP 8.1 yet, but I see that Lando for local development added PHP 8.1 support 2 weeks ago. So,
and that was actually the trigger for it. One of the users upgraded their Lando change. I guess they looked at the change log and they said, "Let's switch and see how things work." So yeah.
Yeah. So doing it locally, Lando is a good bet. And then when filing the pull requests, we can add in the new 8.1. Just replace 8.0 from the testing matrix in the GitHub Actions file. Okay. Yeah, some work to do there. For sure. Okay, let's see. Those are kind of the only items that were brought up specifically. However, there has been a lot of activity in the issue queue recently. Yeah, so there's like a lot to choose from as far as like areas that probably need some attention. Go ahead, Greg.
Maybe now is a good opportunity to also mention something that was decided by the PMC last week. and we announced it, which is related to that. So up until now, Backdrop was officially supporting PHP version 5.3, a specific version and above. And the decision is made that after the next minor release after the next minor release, so minor releases from now, will drop support for any PHP version before PHP 5.6. So 5.6 will be basically the only PHP 5 version that we support officially. That goes to say that we will try to not intentionally break things, but we might. So.
Yeah, I wonder if that needs to be clarified more. That Backdrop has a constant that says its minimum PHP version, and it will refuse to do absolutely anything if that constant variable is like not met. And so if we're dropping support for 5.6, does that mean that we update that constant and therefore just like completely bail out of trying to do anything if the PHP version is too old?
That might break. Tim, you're muted.
We're supporting 5.6, not prior to that. And Greg, last week you brought up, or we would make an effort to keep it available. But my understanding from other people was that there are things we want to implement which will break older versions.
Okay.
So we should not mislead people into thinking. So basically, I said that in the blog post. The blog post says after May 15th, we will be probably adding things that will break old sites. So people should think that we're trying to maintain old versions, because it sounds unlikely. Is that correct, Nate?
Yeah,
it's pretty likely.
I think I mentioned this, that as soon as we take out PHP 5.3 from the testing matrix, test failures will happen, because if we're not testing it, then it's inevitable that failures will occur and we won't know about it. So unless we're going to keep testing PHP 5.3, we can't really say that we support it in any way.
Okay, fair enough. I apologize then. Maybe I was confused about the thing. That means that we need to ensure that the installer doesn't offer any newer versions of Backdrop as upgrades, because it will break the site, right? If it detects PHP less than 5.6, then it shouldn't offer any new versions of Backdrop as an update.
Yeah, I wonder quite what we can do about that, because we can't update any existing sites that haven't been updated yet, but we could add in something into the 1.21 release cycle, so that at least then there's like a couple months, if they're A, keeping their Backdrop site up to date, while B, not updating their PHP servers, which is a kind of unlikely combination, but possible.
I have an issue open for adding warnings about PHP. Maybe, I'm not sure if it was closed, rejected at that point. Maybe it's worth reopening that so that it can trigger errors in the status report for people that are running older versions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I wonder, like, we could decide on how aggressive we want to get with that. That we could start giving people warnings if they're running unsupported by the PHP community, PHP versions possibly. Yeah. But there is kind of I'm not sure if it's a big burden there, but there is a burden there that a lot of operating systems, upgrading your PHP version can be pretty difficult. Olaf? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think warning about officially unsupported PHP versions can be misleading, because many hosting providers have their special versions which are patched and but have nonetheless numbers which are not officially supported.
So perhaps, but Greg, I think your idea is still good, that we could use the status report as the way to like give people warning that lower than PHP 5.6 is about to be removed. And then we can leave that warning in place for the next time that we want to do a minimum PHP version, and just change the number. Yeah. And so I think if they're running less than PHP 5.6, we put a status report message in there that's an error that lets people know, hey, they need to upgrade as soon as possible. and then we keep it in place for the next time when we need to bump the PHP minimum again.
Yeah, we can decide if it is a warning or an error, but it seems like an error is more. And I think that we've, Nate, I think this was one of your suggestions. Did we suppress the error messages from the rest of the site and just kept the, I think that we merged that change that now doesn't bug people about errors in every page. It just has the notification icon, right?
I think it still bugs them on every page. As much as I would
Okay.
like to remove it from other pages, there is a pull request that is out there that removes it from other pages. But what were you thinking about bringing that up? You're saying that. Do you think that that would be good or bad in this situation?
Yeah, because Olaf mentioned that, you know, there's legitimate versions. Maybe we can do both things now, because we were discussing both of these things in the past. A, to warn about outdated PHP versions, and B, stop bugging in every single bugging site administrators in every single page, right? So we could now make it an error for PHP versions, have the little notification icon in the indicator in the admin bar, and then if we hide it from everywhere on the site besides, I don't know, status page, then that could be a compromise. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm still in favor of removing that warning from every page of the admin interface, because I think the red dot is sufficient and more effective and less obnoxious. Yeah. Oh, and there's also this weird performance thing that happens, because if you're checking the update status, like the status report on every single page load, then that also has like a performance impact. That it's like doing that is also like an expensive operation. So
and also status messages get cast sometimes, so even if you fix it, it's still there. Or yeah,
I'll have to do something to add.
Yeah, coming back to the status of the messages. So I think before the release, when we switch or when we drop the support, it shouldn't be an error, but just a warning, because until then it's working, so it's not an error.
In the case of dropping PHP support for 5.6 or below 5.6, I think an error is important that we flag it as like, you need to fix this right now, because if we're only giving them 3 months to upgrade their PHP version, they need to get off of it immediately. So I think if there was a longer runway, and if we were warning about just generally unsupported PHP versions, a warning might be sufficient. But because we're literally dropping support and your site will stop working if you're running an old version of PHP, I think we need to do an error for this round. If we have like less aggressive cutoff dates, a warning I think would have been sufficient. But this is really important that they fix it as soon as possible.
yeah, and once we have merged that in, it will become an issue next time that there's a security release, because the change will be included.
Oh, I see. So they'll get one error saying there's a security release, and then once they update the security release, then they'll have a different error.
No, I mean,
because
if there's a security release that comes before the actual release, if we merge the change with the requirement, right? Am I thinking wrong?
Well, we can merge it only into the branch that will be the minor version. We don't have to merge it into the bug fix version. Yeah, and that way we can still give people those 3 months.
Yep.
I mean, if we wanted, this is kind of I'm not sure if it's even if it's underhanded, but because there's no way for us to flag an error on people's sites, we could make a security release that does nothing except for says, hey, the PHP version has been increased, because really this is a security issue. And then when they upgraded to the new version to make the security error go away, they would get another error that says you need to upgrade your PHP version. That would be a way to like force an error onto people's sites. But I'm not sure that just seems like that's a cumbersome way to proceed. We have the news block, and we can definitely use that. We have the great blog post that Tim drafted. I think the news block plus the blog post is and tweeting, all of those things should probably be sufficient.
Okay, and they've all been done, just for the record. We're on the news block, we tweeted.
Thanks, Tim. Keeping our communication solid. We love that. All right. Anything else on the PHP upgrade?
I have something related to security releases though.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know that we are adding SA nodes in b.org for core releases, but we're meant to be doing that for contrib as well, right? And because contrib authors do not have access unless they are part of the team that manages b.org, I think that we're missing some contrib. I will need help of the contrib.
There's no way for a contrib release to be a security release without the involvement of the security team, because they have to go into Backdrop and CMS.org and open and mark the issue as a release. So when that happens, that person will also draft a security advisory, and hopefully with the help of the person who's creating the release, they'll be like, here's the template for an advisory, please tell me what to put in there, and then they'll write the advisory and we can just post it.
The reason why I'm mentioning this is because there was a security release of the Search API page module recently, which was the maintainer did create the release. I poked them, they create the release, and I flagged it as a security release. But then I needed to create that node, and I realized that I would need to start incrementing it as contrib 001. But I then realized that there's other releases of contrib that we just didn't create SAs for this year.
There shouldn't be, but can you make a list of?
Yeah, I think Webform had a security release. Maybe we didn't do the SA. So
yeah, there's probably a handful. We should make a list though, because just because there should be doesn't mean there isn't. But we can definitely go back and create the security advisories now. Probably what we should do is set them to all publish at the same time, so that when people they won't get like a bunch of emails. So we're just be like, we're getting caught up, here's 8, and everyone will get an email when that goes out.
Yep.
Do you need help with that?
If someone helps me compile the list of the past contrib modules that had releases and make sure how back we have been missing, like is it this year only or does it go back to last year?
Yeah. Okay. I think there's probably a way we can just build a view to check which releases are security releases. And then I'll play with that on my local site and see if we can get that working. And then that might be something that we just have on the live site that we can check periodically and make sure that we have all of the security advisories up.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Let's see. We've got about 20 minutes. Let's run through the 1.21 milestone, if there's nothing else. So 1.21 is the next minor release of Backdrop. Feature freeze is on, well, it's normally on the 1st of the month prior to the release, so it comes out January 15th. Feature freeze, therefore, would be January 1st. January 1st is a Saturday. Per our current policies, we push that to the end of any holiday weekend. So feature freeze is January 2nd, 2022. I believe that's correct because I think New Year's Day is being observed on the 31st as the holiday. That may vary by country, of course. So I'm curious to hear if there's any other countries that have their holiday on the 3rd instead of the 31st. We can kind of make a decision there about what day feature freeze really is. I'm not sure that we've had this particular thing happen before. Okay, well, let's plan on the 2nd though, so far. And we'll go through the 1.21 issues here, or at least as many as we can.
Would it make sense to just note, I've suggested a sprint, maybe the Sunday, relating to feature freeze, because I'm not sure there's a better time. There's probably no good time in the next 2 weeks. So does that work for anybody?
I think that sounds great.
Even if it's just a few people, I'll plan to be there. So it's on the calendar. It's not on the Google Calendar. It's on the events calendar in backdrop.org.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, that sounds wonderful. Let's see, we currently have 10 open issues for 1.21. First one in the list, actually, yeah, we'll start from the top. Enable telemetry module on new installs in 1.21. Last we checked in on this, we were pending a PMC decision about policies and opt-in and opt-out for privacy related things. Is that still pending decision?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just say quickly, there is an issue for it, but it's going to need some pushing, I think, to get through. As I've said before, I feel a little bit like a part of this is to not just make a decision about opt-in or opt-out, but if it is opt-out, that we need a policy describing that. And I have sort of a draft of something, and we just got to get it through. So.
Okay.
Oh, the PHP thing became the priority last week. We'll try and make this a priority this week. See if we can't come to any kind of decision quickly, because I don't think we can move on. Well, we could add more. We could add more features to the telemetry, right, without turning the module on. But to turn the module on, we'll need PMC action. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. There's still lots of things to potentially be added. I think web server was one item that specifically was raised as we should be tracking that. I think officially we only support Apache, which is a little bit interesting considering like backdropcms.org itself runs Nginx.
Right.
So there's a little bit of fuzzy requirements there, and it would be good to start collecting that information. Okay, next up we've got pull request add display settings for book navigation. I believe Jen is the advocate. You opened the issue, Jen, but it doesn't say that you're the advocate. But I think this issue is really straightforward, that it just adds this, the book navigation previous, next, and go to parent as a display setting option, like using hook field extra fields, right? So you can move it up and down or turn it off. Is that right?
I think it's on a block setting, because it's a special menu. I don't know. I haven't looked at the pull request. I opened the issue a long time ago.
Oh, I see. And Herb was the one that actually filed it. Oh, it looks like he just made it configuration settings for book module. So book module has a settings page, and he just made settings on that form for would you like to display the navigation or not. Well, anyway, since you opened the issue, Jen, it might be helpful if you took a look at that one.
I'll go test it.
Okay, yeah, the current state of it is that it has a pull request that needs review. Let's see, that is issue 1976. Should bring this up. Okay, next up is issue 4903. Provide a hidden path, content type, and core. Tim, we kind of covered this a little bit prior to the meeting, basically saying there's a lot of decisions to be made here about direction. Can you summarize that?
Sure. I'll share my screen real quick. We had a problem last week with the PR, but thanks to Don Quilmont, we fixed that. So this is the current PR, although it's been modified by Olaf in testing. So it looks a little different. The images themselves are planned to change. I think Olaf has offered to maybe help us pick some better images out. But the current PR, basically what it does is adds three cards with images. Olaf is one of the things I think he was doing with this example was pointing out how easy it is sort of to break the layout, whether or not that's an issue or not. And the other thing this PR does, well, it adds a new content type called cards, which is a hidden path content type. And then it adds this view on the front page. It also modifies the text a little bit. So the text, all of this text is supposed to be explanatory. So the node that's actually in the PR is more explaining about cards and stuff. And basically at this stage, I think we're just looking for, well, we need new images, but Olaf has suggested just doing one card instead of three. There's a few different ideas out there, but I think the biggest thing we need feedback is on the text itself and sort of the overall layout. There is a blocker to this. I believe it's a blocker in that these are supposed to be hidden path content, but the links, the links work. And for a regular user, they would take you to a page not found. And we want Backdrop to not make those links if it's a hidden path content type. So that's the summary. I don't know if we want to talk about this more right now. Or...
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if that link problem are these are using the node display mode. Is that right? They're not. This isn't fields. Is this a view right now? Sorry, lots of questions.
It is. I'm pretty sure. I forget now. I'm pretty sure it's a view, and I'm pretty sure it's using the display mode.
Yeah.
Which is why, exactly, if it were a field, we could disable the link. But because it's a display mode, it's automatically displaying the title, and we can't just turn off the link there.
Yeah, I had this idea for another reason to use fields instead of a node display, because, for example, we could use another image style, which is really probably for this view. And now we are using an image style which is the same for the node view and for this grid view, which is not very good. So
there is a related issue to not link titles for any hidden path content. I'm not sure if anyone's looked at that yet. It's a little iffy because we have to make a change to the node template because the link is hard-coded in the template. It's not like pre-processed or added in any way that's easy to alter. But that is sort of a bigger issue in general, is that we should never link a node title to a node that is going to provide a access denied or a 403 or whatever when someone clicks on it. So I don't think it should block this, but I just figured I'd mention that.
Well, okay, Jen, I'm a bit confused. Are there two separate issues? Is there an issue that will fix it for this use case, and then there's a broader issue?
The broader issue will fix it for this use case too, but that's just any node title for whatever. And I don't know that there's a dedicated issue for this use case.
Okay.
I think
so. I've been assuming that it was a blocker, that we wouldn't be able to get this into core unless we changed the view to a fields.
There's other solutions, like we could ship core with a template that overrides this node type for this view mode or all view modes or however. We would need to put some solution into the current pull request, but it doesn't have to be the solution.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, we could use a field-based display mode. I'm not sure this is a good suggestion, but we also could make a new display mode for card and use the card display mode when showing this view.
That doesn't help because
it doesn't help with the title, but but it does help with the image style problem that Olaf mentioned, that we're using the same image style for both the full and the card. Which honestly, making a display mode for card is again one of the most common use cases. So it might not be a bad idea to
but if you have a content type called card, it might only ever have one display mode. So maybe default is card. Yeah, it's just
good point.
But yeah, I don't know. This is really like a site specific question. Like, are you going to use a card anywhere else? And if you are, then you probably would want a special display mode for this. And if you're not, if the only place it exists is in a 3-column row, then you don't.
Yeah, Tim, you're
I'd like to quickly raise that we all seem to be settling on the word card, although there are still a few people who have sort of objected to that, but I just don't think we have a better solution. And the main objections is that there's a sort of an idea of what a card is out there and that this might not be it. But I think, I don't know, in a way, this is kind of what a card is, although this content type can be used for other things as well. So, you could argue that it's too specific, but I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of different ways that you could build out cards, and maybe
Right.
that's where the thing is that you could have card representation of a post, right? That is a super common use case as well.
But that wouldn't be a pageless node, though. It
But
would
it wouldn't be
link.
a pageless node. Yeah, it would be different. It would be cards of
Right.
the posts. Yeah. Yeah. There's this is what it comes down to, and it's like, if we're trying to ship stuff out of the box, it has to be opinionated in some way, and it won't be the same way that every site would have built it out.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's not the most accurate term, but what I like is pretty short and so very similar to page and post. So that's really nice.
Yeah, and I like the end result. I think that's the big driver for me, at least, isn't actually demonstrating pageless nodes. It's that our homepage looks a lot better out of the box. And it demonstrates more things that Backdrop can do right away, which I like. Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know if we have the time, but I brought up an issue which I have with the current approach, that I'm not sure if it's robust enough. So I'm thinking it's very easy to break unintentionally. And also, if people want to adapt it, it's not so easy. So I think the most common case would be that people just drop it. And then hopefully build their own stuff. But I would like to get feedback, if it's possible now or in the issue queue, about if it's not better to choose a more simple approach, which is not looking so nice, but also nice in my opinion. For example, with the gray background and one card. Because I'm thinking it's quite problematic, because other things like, for example, Tim, I'm speaking to you now. You were often concerned how easy it's to break bases, for example, with a margin of 20 pixels, which is not at the right place. And I think such things can happen here very easily, so that it's just not looking good when people start to use it. And the use case would then to be to recommend the people, okay, that's just a demonstration, it's just demo content, remove it and build your own stuff.
Go ahead, Greg.
Sorry. So I'm looking at the b.org site currently for examples, and I'm seeing that sort of like a use case for these cards would be the black section where we have the upgrade from Drupal section that has three cards, 70 plus included modules. Maybe it's better if I share my screen, actually, just bear with me. Can everybody see the page?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically what we have now is something like that. It doesn't, I think these things they actually lead to pages, maybe something like that, but in a horizontal instead of vertical thing. And Olaf, you're suggesting something like this with more text, right?
Yes, more or less, yes.
Okay, just with a link or something to documentation.
For example.
Yeah, if we are blocked on that, I'm happy with this as well. Although, I don't know, maybe we can showcase, Tim, I'm not sure what you think. Maybe we can find a solution for this card thing that is actually a view with actual nodes, not pageless things, right? And then we can implement something like this to showcase the cards or the pageless node example, which could be, I don't know, some text and a link to our documentation. And I'm trying to find a compromise here.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like that reducing it to adding one more card on the homepage isn't nearly as compelling as if we could get something that looked more like a real website with a 3-column grid.
Exactly.
I am curious to figure out how the current system is brittle and see if we can address those issues rather than trying to move away from the current implementation. And I think that if we can figure out what it is that is problematic and address that, it will be better for everyone being able to reuse this without needing to throw it out and start over.
Well, I'm not exactly throwing it out. I'm trying to play devil's advocate or Olaf's advocate in this case and say, we can have both of these. We can have the cards as they are now be an actual view. So we demo how views work. We keep the design with the images and everything, but they are not pageless nodes. And we add another thing that is actually a pageless node. That's what I'm saying.
That's not a card.
But Olaf, does that, I mean, that seems counter to what I understand Olaf's concern. So Olaf, do you even like that idea?
So Olaf, you don't want these at all, like the cards at all. You would prefer that they weren't part of the design, the default design for Basis. Is that what you're saying?
So I like the design. That's not the problem, but I think it's, as I said, it's too easy to break it, or we have to tell the people, well, this looks nice, but you can't add more text than 3 lines.
Well, if this was, yeah, true, but if this was a view and these were not pageless nodes, we could truncate the text,
yes.
in which case your problem is not a problem anymore. So.
Okay, so yeah, I like the idea at first sight, but that is, I said, completely different issue or request.
Yeah.
So it has had nothing to do with pageless nodes. So yeah, nice idea, but
what I'm saying is, so you basically said that you would prefer the pageless node to be a single thing, right, with a gray background. What I'm saying is, if we want that, we can have that be the same thing as it is in the b.org issue, right?
Yes, so I see it's a pity, but I think it's the best to do because it won't break things, and I think the main goal wasn't to have a better homepage. It's a nice result, but that wasn't the goal. The main goal was to promote this very special content type. And I think even if you would place it on a less prominent place, for example, on the About page in the sidebar, we still would have the content type, and people would go to the content type page, would see it and see the description and could work with it. And without breaking things and having issues and having to, very quickly release next bug fix versions because we're breaking all the things. I think it's
I still
too
feel
much.
like it's really important if we're going to introduce a new content type for people to know what it is and how it works. And if we're just going to place it like a block in a sidebar, there's no obvious reason why people would choose one over the other. And when you have something like a homepage where you have 3 in a row, like it's a very specific different thing, then I think it will make more sense to people than if we just create another thing that's just like something we already have and use it in the same way we already have it. So can you, I'm sorry, I had to answer a phone call in the middle of the meeting, but do you have any examples of where the current configuration is problematic, like how it breaks things?
Yeah, so the main thing is, I guess, that it's very opinionated to have 3 columns, and you have to adjust it that it fits. So the text can't be too long. The images must fit the aspect ratio and so on. And even so, if you think, oh, I'd like to have 5 of these there, it's quite hard to do that. And I only want 2 of them. So you have to change many things. And I don't agree that this is the special thing that you can put 3 cards, let's say cards in a row. We can do that also with posts. That's not the specific quality of cards.
Right. But it's a real world use case for them, where I think people will see it and identify it and be like, oh, that's how people build these pages. Whereas posts in a row, we already have examples of that. Like we already have, maybe not horizontally, but we already have like posts feeding to the homepage.
Yes, but
I think,
for example, to have custom text on the homepage, that's a super use case. How do you do that in other cases? The blog, but you can translate it. Editors can't edit them, and so on. So it's a very nice use case, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we like the 3 there too. Same reasons. I think we can solve both the problems with the aspect ratio by using an image style, and the text by putting some description text where that is. And I also think that the ability to change the number of items in a view, you're right, it's not really the issue. It's the fact that once you change the number of items, it's not going to look the same. But I don't think we need to worry about that too much for core. If we can make it look good in basis and in 7, and using something like the views grid style that'll work with any theme, then it should be that if someone starts changing that stuff, it's not going to be terrible. I mean, it's not going to look beautiful like it is when we originally lay it out in 3. But it's not too hard to get that working. And we could even write some like documentation or blog posts on like, I only wanted 2 or I wanted 5 or whatever, on how to do that. It's just a matter of like adjusting all of the things, like you're right, a lot of things, but the image style and the amount of text provided and the number of items per row. And I think that I am less worried about people trying to change what's there and ending up with something that's not perfect than not knowing how to, like, not understanding the tools that we're providing. And I also, we talked about this a little bit too, but after we started this idea, what the main point was sort of expanded, and there's now like 8 main points. And so this particular issue doesn't solve all of them. It solves some of them. And I think like providing the content type out of the box is one, but also like improving the homepage is another one, and a place to put text is another one. And all of this stuff, I think, there are other ways that we can solve all of the other issues that we want solved too. And we just need to figure out how, like, what's the best way forward. And I don't know if that in this case is the safest way forward. We can definitely place one block on the sidebar, one block on the homepage, but it won't be as compelling a change when we're introducing a new feature, where I think that we have the room to do that later when it's not new. Try this thing you're not going to understand. I think it'll be a little better if we have something more robust. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I also wanted to mention, I'm not absolutely against it, but from the experience of the last release, so we were also, or we thought we were quite ready to put it in the release. And then I was surprised that at a certain point it was clear, no, it's release freeze, and we don't get it in. And I think if we want to do it in the way how it's planned now, it's much work, because I quickly looked at it and kind of broke it, but we have to check a lot more things, I think. And especially the long text problem, I don't have really an idea how we how we work with that. Do we just recommend don't put more text in it, or
Yeah,
what
Yeah.
would be the way?
I
I
mean,
mean,
Olaf, to be honest, I mean, I see your point, but I don't really see that as a bug or a broken. I mean, anybody could build. It isn't that uncommon that I build cards like this, and then I accidentally put too much content in them, and it sort of breaks. And well, that's not the way it was designed. I mean, if you use something the way it's not designed for, it's not going to look good, and that happens in core all the time. So I mean, I think it's worth raising that issue and seeing what we can do to prevent and help the user not break it. But I don't see this, like the long text, as a fundamental problem.
Mhm.
So to me, that's not difficult to solve. And some of the other things that you've raised, I think we can improve upon fairly easily. So I'm not too worried about them. We're not trying to make this foolproof. People will be able to make it look ugly. But yeah, I just. There's other things in core right now that function the same way as far as I'm concerned, that people really easily, depending on how they use them, they don't look good, but we don't worry about that.
Yeah, I think it's up to individual people, users, developers, how they build their site. We can give them an idea of how something might look out of the box. If they change, it's up to them to build their site the way that they want. I don't think we should be trying to build a system where they can build stuff, a whole website, without getting into views or code or whatever else. That's Squarespace, that's other things. That's not Backdrop, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also build cards for most of my client sites, and they, we tell them it's only going to look good if you use 30 words or less. And I think we can do the same thing with a little description field on the body that's like, for a card, it will look best with whatever. And that doesn't mean you can't put in more characters than that if you want all your cards to have more text, but at least it'll be a guide. It'll be like, this will look best in this particular format. And then it's up to them to decide whether they want to follow that recommendation. I do the same thing with my images, where it's like recommended image size. And, if they put in some image where you cut off someone's head or something, they know, because the aspect ratio was there. They can go back and put in something better if they wanted.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
I do think, though, as we're working through this, every time you see something like that where you're like, oh, this is going to cause problems, we should know about it so that we can try and see if there's anything we can do to make it easier for people to do the right thing. So it's valuable to have that feedback.
Right.
I think we have to wrap up. We pushed over the hour quite a bit, but yeah, thank you all for the discussion. Olaf, in particular, your patience is unrivaled. Admirable. All right, but let's wrap up for today. There's some more issues to discuss, but we can do so on the internet in the issue queue. The 1.21 milestone is open with 10 issues in it, so there's more things to be discussed there. And sounds great. Thank you all for joining, as always, every week, and we'll catch you guys on the internet. Maybe, hopefully, some of you will attend the sprint on Sunday. So meeting location for that, Tim? Will we likely be using this Zoom?
Probably, yeah. Am I still? Yeah. Yeah, and there's go to the event on backdrop.org for any details.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, and yeah, see you guys all next week.
Yeah.